Hi, I'm Matt.
I'm Jess.
And I'm Ashley.
We
can't believe
you haven't seen All About Eve.
Neither can I.
Well, you have now.
Until now. That's Jess's line, normally.
Yeah, I have now.
So, welcome back to episode 11 of I Can't Believe You Haven't Seen with Jess and Matt, and a special guest coming to us from the wilds of Northern Ontario. We have Ashley.
I am very pleased and scared to be here.
That's probably the appropriate feeling, yeah.
Isn't it normally where it's naked and afraid in the wilds in Northern?
Well, I chose to wear clothes today.
And aren't we all glad for that?
I don't know, aren't we?
So Ashley is a really good friend of ours, specifically of yours. I'll maybe let you do a bit of an introduction as to how you know Ashley.
I've known Ash forever. That's a genuine statement.
Yep.
Ashley's been a friend of mine for 30 years. Knows more about me than I care to tell, and don't ask questions because she will tell you. And is also a giant movie nerd, and I think is part of the reason that you and Matt get along as well as you do is because you can talk movies and thoughts. And so This just felt like an appropriate guest spot.
Mm-hmm.
To have one of our favorite people talk about, honestly, one of my favorite movies.
And you also love old movies like I do, too. So I was quite surprised you hadn't seen this.
I was also surprised I hadn't seen this because I have seen quite a few Bette Davis movies.
Yes.
And this is probably one of her top three, and I hadn't seen it. Very strange.
There you go. Yeah. No, and it's also a really it's one of the legendarily big Oscar movies in the history of the awards. So
yep.
I was just surprised that we kind of came up with a list of a few, and you were like, "Oh, I haven't seen All About Eve," and we did a double take. We're like, "Really?"
So we really held up to the name here. We really couldn't believe you hadn't seen All About Eve.
Yeah. Would you not believe that I had read about All About Eve, just had never watched the movie?
That makes sense because it is a pretty legendary subject, at least in the theater. It became such a big thing. Just to say, when you say the name Eve Harrington, most people that are theater people after this movie came out now have a very clear idea of the type of person that you're talking about with it. So.
Also, that's kind of my life. I don't know, you've listened to other episodes of this, things like Inside Out, where I knew about Inside Out because I'd read about it, but I hadn't watched it. So same idea. I get it.
No, it was high time I saw this movie anyway. Again, big Bette Davis fan.
Yeah.
So, but my first introduction to her was her later career, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte. What is it? The Watcher in the Woods, the millennial trauma film that got us all when we were children.
When things got weird for Bette Davis. Yeah.
And then I also saw a lot of her incredibly early career. Jezebel is the big one that comes to mind. But it's the mid-career, which is on theme with the movie.
Totally. Yeah, this is exactly
funny how that works.
Exactly on brand. So to give a bit of an introduction to the movie, All About Eve, came out in 1950. So it might be the oldest movie we've done so far.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah. So this is a classic Hollywood movie, early 50s, directed and written by Joseph Mankiewicz, starring, obviously, as we've mentioned, Bette Davis, also Anne Baxter, Celeste Holm, George Sanders, Gary Merrill, Hugh Marlowe, and Thelma Ritter, along with a bunch of others. This is actually the very first screen role for Marilyn Monroe in a very, very small kind of cameo role. I mentioned the Oscar success. This was for a really long time one of the movies that had the most nominations for a long period of time. It had 14 Oscar nominations, which is a bunch, especially for a movie that's not a big technical Marvel kind of movie. This isn't Ben-Hur.
No, very character drama.
Yeah, so to get 14 nominations is quite a thing, and it did get 6 wins. Won Best Picture that year, Best Director, Best Writer, Best Supporting Actor for George Sanders, Best Costumes, and Best Sound. There was also several other acting nominations, which I'm sure we'll get to how that played out. Bette Davis and Anne Baxter were both nominated for Best Actress. And
That's funny.
Celeste Holm and Thelma Ritter were both nominated for Best Supporting Actress. So
interesting.
Yeah.
But fair. This is a lot of female-driven.
Totally. And it is interesting that the one actor that won an award for it is a dude.
The dude.
So we'll see about that.
That's
I'm
never
sure
happened
we'll get
before.
into it. But again, it's a pretty legendary movie at the Oscars. It's a pretty well-regarded movie in general. It's on the AFI 100 Years, 100 Movies list at number 28. It did make the most recent BFI Sound and Sight poll as well. I think it was number 211 out of the 250 they put on there. So it's very well-regarded worldwide at this point. And even just saying the name Eve around theater people, it has become very notorious. So,
okay, I have an important question.
Mm-hmm.
Did you just know the number that it was on the AFI list? I know you have notes, but did you know that off the top of your head because of who you are?
So I knew it was on the list. I knew it was definitely in the top 30. They've done 2 of those lists. The early one it was higher up on, and this one it was, I think, just under the 20s. But
okay,
yeah. So I knew it was on there.
I know. Your brain is a weird place.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, good talk.
So as is tradition, since Ashley's the one that hadn't seen this movie, she is going to be the one guiding the discussions. This is a big moment for us because Ashley brought not only notes, which we typically do, she's got handwritten notes. We're very excited about this.
Old school millennial here.
No, I love it. Technology can't eat your notes in that case. So no pressure. You're just in charge. Have fun.
I was going to say, I think I'd like to start off with the alternative titles that I came up for this movie
Ooh,
as I was
love
watching it.
This is new.
Have a couple.
Okay, hit us with it.
First alternative movie title, Egoception.
Okay. Yeah.
Egoception is great.
I like that.
Second alternative movie title, Why Won't Anyone Listen to Birdie?
And really, the whole movie would have been different
Yep.
if we just listened to Thelma Ritter.
Why didn't we listen to Birdie? Yeah, I agree. I think I have that in my notes too, something like that.
Third, Cigarettes and Gin.
Yeah.
It's a pretty solid name for a movie in general. Or a poetry slam or a band. We have a lot of those this week.
Yeah.
Theater.
Yes, because it's said multiple times like that. I love that.
Shut Up About Eve.
Yep.
Shut Up About Eve is great.
That's really good.
And then my last one is Stranger Danger Didn't Exist in the 50s.
It's true.
Well, it did, but it was not the same.
Did it
as
really?
is now.
I don't
well,
know
it
that
was
it did.
Stranger Danger existed more in hindsight, I think, which is probably part of the problem.
And isn't Stranger Danger always in high? Anyway, moving on. Those are fun.
They were, yes. I had a lot of fun coming up with those. But yes, I'm going to roll off of Stranger Danger because
think that's fair.
who goes through a back door of a theater and goes, oh, you're the weird one who's been sitting out here every night for 3 weeks. I was starting to miss you. Oh, you're a big fan of my good friend, the star of this show? Come and meet her.
Yeah.
Karen is a bad friend.
That's fair.
She's a little naive, certainly. So, again, for those that aren't familiar with the movie necessarily, the entire story starts with a play and a very famous actress, Margot Channing, which is Betty Davis. And there is a woman who continues to go to every single showing and just hang around to just, be near them at the stage door.
The word you want is stalk.
Yeah. And the person that originally sees this woman, who we find out later is Eve Harrington, is Karen, the playwright's wife. So she is the best friend of Margot Channing. She's always at the shows later on to see everybody. And she sees this, I think they call her the mousy little thing at one point.
I think
Eve the mousy little thing?
Yeah, Margot calls her that.
Yeah, so she's sort of there in a raincoat and a frumpy bucket hat, just hanging around trying to.
That's as frumpy as you can get Ann Baxter, I think, in this movie.
So it basically begins with Karen, with Celeste Holm, befriending her slightly and just thinking she's doing a little bit of charity work for her, and I'll take you in to meet Margot.
Yeah,
and thus the movie.
That's the movie begins. I actually wondered, was Karen thinking she was doing charity for Eve? I'm gonna I'll take pity on this person who's clearly a devoted fan and come and meet Margot, or because this does happen later on in the movie, does Karen think Margot needs to be humbled, and that meeting this worshipping fan might somehow soften Margot a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, like, as Karen as a character is really the only person that her life didn't revolve around the theater at one point in time.
Yeah,
now, it does because she's married into it.
I think the Addison character at one point says, like, she's theater adjacent, or she's, like, theater by marriage.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
her
Something
in.
along those
Aw,
lines.
she's a theater-in-law.
Yeah, that's
Kinda.
essentially what it is.
Love it.
So I think there's a certain bit of naivete to that, probably just going, oh, I'll just take you backstage, it's fine. When if it was any of the actors or the directors or anybody, they would probably be like, who is this? Can you get them away from what they're doing? Like, it doesn't strike me as anything that somebody that would be involved with the theater would be charitable in that way to do.
Also, like, real talk, if you ever brought a fan back while I had fucking cold cream on my face to take off my stage makeup and my hair was still in my wig cap, fight on sight, bro. Like, Karen's a bad friend for that, if nothing else. Don't bring people to meet me. Don't look at me. I'm hideous.
But this is what I mean about Karen being a bad friend. Now, that being said, Margot's not an easy friend.
No.
I'd argue she is also a bad friend, but the first word I would use is easy. She's not an easy friend.
Yeah.
She's a very hard person to get along with and to like. I think Margot's one of those, I tell it like it is, and if you don't like it, that's your problem. But sometimes her telling it like it is just mean. Mm-hmm. There's no, like, softness around her edges.
Yeah.
And then later on in the film, when Karen conspires with Eve to make Margot miss a performance so Eve can go on as her understudy, that's Karen being a jerk and trying to humble Margot a little bit.
Yeah. There's probably a little of that because Karen throughout does make comments about, like, oh, you know Margot, or oh, she's in one of her moods again. I mean, one of the famous lines in this entire movie
She
is
opens it, right?
Karen going, like, are we on this train? Is the train on the tracks? Is it going to be smooth? And it is not.
Yeah.
So.
Who wants to say the line?
You can say the line. I think it's appropriate.
Oh, put on your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Yeah. With the big dramatic, like, martini in drawl from Betty Davis, just
and the swoosh of her skirt up the stairs.
Yeah.
Love it.
I just like to exit rooms like that, actually, in general. I'm gonna start doing that.
There's a lot of good exit room lines in this movie.
Considering most of my exit room lines are sarcastic in general, this is better.
Yeah,
I think.
it's an all-timer.
I agree.
I think you're right. I think you're getting at something that's bang on there. That, like, they are best friends, but there is also an element of, like, hey, you need to check yourself.
They're
a little
frenemies.
Bit, so,
Like, I do have a note here that says Karen was the original Mean Girl.
Oh, I like that. Yes, I'm just having a look.
And which brings me not to my next point necessarily, but, like, my next thought is I am not a terribly huge fan of narration. Mm-hmm. And this opens with narration, and I get why it opens and the setup, but there's 3 narrators.
Yep.
Who do you think whose story is this? Because you have Addison, Margot, and Karen all narrating. Mm-hmm. But I think this is Karen's story as far as, like, she should be the narrator. Because she's the one who introduces Eve into the friend group and then willingly/unwillingly becomes an accomplice to Eve's machinations. So I do think that this is Karen's story to narrate, but we have 2 other narrators. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not a big fan of either of their narrations because I don't know that they give terribly much to the rest of the story.
Right.
It's funny, actually, because we've talked about how we, like, narration as a narrative device. Ooh, I hate that I said it that way, but here we are. That, like, voiceover is a narrative device, right? And how that can or cannot work. Goodfellas, it's there for a reason, and it's kind of central to the plot.
Yeah.
And a single narrator.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, there's 2 narrators.
There's 2 narrators.
Oh, you're right.
But
there's a reason for the 2 narrators.
Yeah.
Right?
Versus something like in Saved, where you're like, this was just a product of 04, right?
Yeah.
With this one, I actually have that too. I was like, the use of this voiceover in the beginning, in particular, is ... interesting. I think. I also have another line here since we're talking about Karen, our bestie. I said, where is it? She says something about, I don't think you meant to cause unhappiness to Eve early. Mm-hmm. And I was like, do you not, Karen? Are you not? What the hell? Use your brain here,
it's
Karen.
A pot kettle situation.
Yeah. Also, what what do you mean you don't think she meant open your eyes, woman?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I agree with you that it's probably Karen's story, even though it's not about her.
Yeah.
Because she's the unreliable narrator in this, right? You learn things as Karen learns things. You kind of have an idea,
Yeah.
but you learn things as she does. Yeah, I like that.
I actually have a totally different thought on this.
Well, we don't like that. Please leave.
It's Addison DeWitt's story to me.
Oh, interesting.
Because
Good.
now he's the, and partly is he's the first narrator. He's
Yes.
the one when they're giving away the Sarah Siddons Award. He's the first of the narrators to come back, and it does end with him. But I think in the case that, and I'm to the point of you saying that Karen's narration, she's not necessarily reliable. Margot is also kind of the same. Hers little bits of it is also not really reliable. And that, to me, is because this is the story of Addison DeWitt hearing about everything from this from other people.
Okay.
And him putting everything together, including his eventual, relationship to Eve and kind of what happens at the end of the movie, where you really realize that, like, all of this has been going on and the real driving force behind it is not any of that. But now going forward, it's him. So I feel like this is a story of him hearing about this from a bunch of other people and being a theater critic. And that is the story that's being produced in front of it.
So what you're telling me is this is a movie that has a woman's name in the title.
Yep.
That had the nominations for 4 female actors.
Yep.
And it's a man's story again?
It is.
Cool. Isn't that great?
It was 1950.
I don't care.
I actually am on board with your explanation, only because I do think that it's not Margot's story in the sense of, like, who's the narrator. This is the story from someone who is not intimately involved inside the theater. They are theater adjacent. Because as much as Addison wants to and believes he is a god and controls the puppets of all the other characters, he is also theater adjacent.
And
He
nobody
is
gives a
not
shit about
in the
Addison.
center of it.
Yeah.
In the sense of Addison as a person, nobody cares about Addison.
But since we're talking about theater, that sidebar, the emphasis they put on the r every time someone said theater, the theater.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to walk away from the stage for a minute. It was driving me nuts.
Knob.
Yeah, I think that honestly comes probably from Addison, because George Sanders is a British actor, so the theater is natural cadence.
I think it was also, there was a lot that was being said about theater as the ultimate form of art versus Hollywood, because we get real mad at anyone who gets involved with Hollywood.
We big mad.
And with it being 1950, if this movie had been made a couple years later, then the lowest form of art was going to be television. Like, Bill would be going to direct an I Love Lucy episode, and he would be the worst.
I love that. There's something I'm backpedaling slightly, but I think that's fair. I just want to pick up on a thread really quick before we move on from it. It's not Margot's story in the sense that she's not telling it. I think you're right. And it's also not Eve's story. It's a story all about
Exactly.
Eve. Ha! So the title was important.
It made sense the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm still friggin' mad that it's a man's story, though.
No.
Can't we just have nice things?
It actually is. This is really a movie that's a story about archetypes as opposed to characters. And
you're right, but I'm annoyed.
because it really, even Addison, even though this is his story, we don't know much about him at all. And really what you know about him is he is the critic.
He is a catty bitch.
Yes.
I believe that he is described that way,
Yeah,
yes.
and he self-identifies as a lot of that too. And I think a lot of the actors do call critics the lowest form of life, and critics think they're the highest form of life. And for looking from the outside, it's like, well, most of that actually doesn't really matter at all. But there is an archetype of the critic in a lot of other movies, and there's a really famous one from later than this called Sweet Smell of Success. I don't know if you've ever seen Sweet Smell of Success.
Can't believe I haven't seen.
I know, yeah.
Add it to the list for your next guest
spot. It has Burt Lancaster and Tony Curtis in it, and it is a similar story in a way that Burt Lancaster plays a theater critic as well, who is like not only this catty, but even more so, and even more cynical, to the point of like even violent in some spots.
Yeah, okay.
And Tony Curtis plays an agent who is representing people. So it looks more at the like dirty town aspect of Broadway as opposed to the people inside of it.
Yeah.
But it very much is this archetype of the critic as the low form of cynical writer. Like even his column at the end where he talks about like, I am once again available in the street for dancing after seeing this amazing performance. And it's like, it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
But he is just playing with flowery prose to puppet, or what he thinks is
he's
puppet,
puppeting
the Broadway scene.
I just thought a lot of what this movie was saying about theater as an art form was really interesting, especially because we never actually see any theater being performed. We never see a play.
You see a bow.
We see, a curtain call, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
That's all.
And then commentary about...
Lots of commentary about, like, what's being written, who's it being written for.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, it's the costume designer comment that makes me laugh. Because it's not... Because you always forget about, like, oh, there's other people involved.
The backstage.
And she's like, I'm going to take this there. And then Bertie's like, no, you're fucking not. That's a bad idea.
They're union.
Yeah, they're union, quick. And she's like, I'm going to dance with this. Look how innocent it is. Which, fuck you, Eve. But, it's just funny that there's, like, all these other parts in the background that people aren't thinking about.
I just thought it was really, really interesting. Another sidebar. So we hear about 3 plays in this movie. Remembrance, which was the play before the one Margot is currently performing, which is Age of Wood.
Aged in Wood, yeah.
And then the last one is, I think, Footsteps on the Ceiling.
Yes.
That's
the upcoming.
What are these plays about?
Well, first, you're being aged in wood.
So, the Aged in Wood, the only one that I know anything about is Aged in Wood, and only because in the, like... So there's the poster in the lobby that they walk by a couple of times, which is Margot Channing done up with the wig, carrying a, like, Civil War era pistol.
Yes.
And she makes a comment early on where she just says, can't this next play just about be a simple one where the woman just shoots her husband and goes to jail? Aged in Wood is about a woman who shoots her husband at some point in time.
And gets away with it?
Well, I don't know that, because we don't see any of the play, but
Wasn't that disappointing?
that is the small amount of knowledge that I know about Aged in Wood. The others are, who knows?
Yeah. Well, and there's, like, obviously some kind of antebellum time that's happening because she's in that costume.
Yeah.
And I kind of was wondering, I'm like, oh, is this sort of like this homage / poking the bear insult to Betty Davis's golden age of early career with Jezebel, which was a very famous at the time.
Yeah.
Probably still.
Gone with the Wind
Southern,
era, Southern dramas.
Southern drama.
Oh, and we know how Matt loves Gone with the Wind.
That is a podcast you do not want to... That would be longer than the actual movie of me ranting about how much I
Would
do
it? Because
not
I
like
think
that.
it would just be, I fucking hate this movie, and then podcast over.
But yeah, I was just like, I don't know what these plays are about, except that the writer, Lloyd, I believe, continues to write, I guess, the main character is always like a 20-year-old ingenue style person, and he keeps writing them for Margot, he says.
Yeah.
And Margot has just turned 40.
Yes.
Okay. That feels like a really good spot, and I don't want to take over this conversation because it's for you. But holy fuck, Lloyd. I've watched this movie more than once, obviously. I really love this movie. And the first few times you're like, oh, Betty Davis. Like, oh, Margot. Oh, Eve. Oh, Lloyd, get bent. Like,
that's why he and Karen are made for each other.
Yeah, you toxic assholes. It's his, like, it was, and I think maybe you will come to this, so I don't want to go too far ahead, but that, like, it was so nice to see my words done appropriately, basically.
How I envisioned them.
You didn't envision anything, you mediocre white man. You write the same story, I'm sure, over and over. We don't know that, but that's kind of how that goes.
Yeah.
So then that brings me to a question.
Oh, fun.
Which is the argument that Margot and Lloyd have over who is the real artist when it comes to a writer and an actor.
Oh, it's a good one.
It's such a good one.
Yeah, that is age old, and that's a movie thing.
Yeah,
that's a play thing. I think if you were to ask people that are like specifically playwrights, like I would imagine someone like your David Mamet's have a very, very definite opinion. that skew towards David Mamet.
I like that you bring up the one playwright that I'm constantly like, fucking dudes, when I'm in here ranting about fucking dudes. Well, not about fucking
Well, that's a
dudes.
different podcast.
Can I come to that one?
Yeah, stay tuned
Everybody
for our
can.
next new podcast, all about Steve.
Is this the part where I tell you I did actually pay money to go see that in the movie theater?
Incredible.
In the cinema?
And
No.
the theater?
Yeah.
No.
No, that's a pretty fair point. And at this point in time in Hollywood movies, there isn't really a debate at this yet, because the concept of like a auteur or a director as the author to a movie is really not a thing at that point, other than a very few people, because it was a big studio system. So it was the machine, right? Like the people like Irving Thalberg, who was running Paramount Studios, was like, he would have thought he is the mastermind, and he would have been more like what Lloyd is kind of believing himself to be.
As somebody who's done theater,
All
and,
three of us, as a matter of fact,
Yeah.
have done
as
theater.
a group of humans who have done theater, as two of us who've done theater together in the past and have been on both sides of it together as well, right? So have both acted, have both been
Backstage.
production team
Yeah.
on productions together, and we've both flip-flopped that. Is it the playwright? Is it the actors? Or is it really the thankless job of the unionized costumers and all of the production people?
Can you tell which role Jess often is in?
I mean, I've acted. Well, Ash you did props when I was acting for So we
One time.
Listen, doesn't matter. You did them. It's hard.
You're on the credit sheet.
It's hard to do props, but it's, if there are no props people, if there are no costumers, if there are no stage managers, if there's no lights folks, you've just got a naked person standing there saying some words and nobody sees shit.
I've seen a couple plays like that.
Are they good?
Well, that's not the question you asked, is it?
Well, I just did. But who actually creates the art, I think, is a really interesting question. And the movie poses, is it the playwright or is it the actor? Mm-hmm. If you don't have any of the people who have the stage built and set and the props and the things to give you that immersive experience, is it either the playwright or the actor, or is it the people who put in the work to get you there?
Well, there's that. I think there's an argument for, is it the critic who tells people that it's worth going to see? Like, did they have some control over how people respond to it?
Yeah.
Is it the audience?
The audience, yeah.
Like, it's all of that. So as someone who is not, theater is not my career. It never was, but it was a very fun thing that I was passionate about doing when I was more involved in crew and stage, and now as a very passionate audience member, I have always viewed theater as collaboration. I'm very much like where one ends, the other begins, and you can't really separate them. But I'm also not involved as someone as this is my career.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And I think that it's probably a different feeling of someone where it's like, I'm an actor, I'm a writer, I'm a director, like this is what I do, and these are my feelings about my control over that.
Yeah.
So I think in this case then, our Margot and Lloyd are having this argument. Neither of them are right, neither of them are wrong. It's just there's no, and you and I have actually, you mentioned auteur for movies. We've been having a conversation this week about like death of the author in terms of books, right? And other art, and how do you separate, like, do you consume art ethically if it's created by or involves somebody that you have a moral or ethical dilemma with, right?
Yeah.
And we're not going to name her. You can probably figure out who we're talking about, wizards and shit, but that doesn't matter. Like, is that the case here too, right? But yeah, I think you're right. If you're missing any one of those elements, yes, obviously I think the prod team doesn't get enough credit a lot of the time, but if any of them are missing, you don't really have a show.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and I just think, again, I thought it was really interesting that particular fight between Margot and Lloyd was about the art and the artist, when again, we never see the product of their art. We never see her act. We never see his play being performed. So we don't actually ever know whose side we could be on, because we never actually experienced the art, which then brings up the question, is that even the point?
Yeah.
Well, and then we've got Bill, who is their longtime director, who I know goes to the Hollywoods, and how dare he, but comes back, right? And it sounds like he's their longtime collaborator. How much influence does the director have in this conversation, right? And maybe they've just made really shitty art this whole time.
Maybe they have.
And it doesn't matter. Nobody likes any of it.
Yeah. And all of their success is just reputation alone.
Because that happens too, actually. That's it. I want to be like, ha ha ha, but that's a really good point, right?
I have full on only gone to see a movie or a show because an actor I really enjoyed or really admired was in it. And can recognize that I am a very biased opinion. So was the play any good? I think it was, but part of my enjoyment and opinion of it being good is because someone I really liked was involved in its production.
Totally. And I think this is a fun movie because I actually think this conversation is ever so slightly different between a stage show and a movie.
Yes.
Because they like the idea of the author of a movie and where it comes from, even though technically speaking, you could probably say writers are where both of them originate from, like if it's a chicken and the egg situation. But when you are putting on a play or putting on a musical, it is the village. Like, it is the collaboration that it can only come together when everybody comes together. You really, unless you're doing a one-man show, and even then you probably are relying on others for something along the way with it, as opposed to a movie where you kind of have somebody as a real, like, captain of the ship a lot of times. Like, this is your Steven Spielberg, your Martin Scorsese, your Ron Howard.
Lots of boy names happening right now.
Well, and nowadays, like, even with recently...
I said one-man show as well, let's not.
Yeah, but, like, even recently look at something like Barbie. Like, as much as Barbie is a huge intellectual property and was licensed as a movie, they gave the reins to Greta Gerwig, and she ran with it, and she made a movie that very much would not have, if Mattel was in charge, it would not have been that movie, but she made it this way, and they went, yeah, we really like this. We're giving you full confidence.
Yeah,
so,
go
like,
for it.
Way to backpedal and get us a female director.
But that's like, we're in the 1950s here, and we're talking about movies where
we are not.
I can think of one female director pre this movie coming out in Hollywood, and that's it.
Yeah, I'm just fucking with you.
Yeah.
Are you having fun sitting at a table with the two of us right now? Is this?
I am. It's always entertaining.
And then I guess the last thing I want to say is, regardless of how anyone here at this table or anyone listening feels about theater in particular, that kind of entertaining art, I really do genuinely love Bill's speech about what theater is to Eve. Yeah. I really did like that speech.
It's true.
That it's all of these things, and you don't like to admit it's these things because it's not your kind of theater, but it's theater to somebody else, so it's theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also find it interesting because this is 1950. So we're not that far removed from theater being the highbrow sort of attention.
And Broadway. We're on the Great White Way.
Yeah, we're at the right place, right? Interesting to see the way that kind of ebbs and flows in terms of what's considered highbrow, lowbrow, the most important piece of art, yada yada, right? Because if you think about, like, the times of the Shakespeare, but, like, theater was considered shit, right?
Yeah.
For a long time. And it wasn't ever meant for the folks that were, highbrow or what have you. And it kind of ebbs and flows, right? You're at this point in this movie where it is the highest form of art. Are we at that point now? Maybe not. I'd argue that things like video games, we've talked a lot about that this week too. Yeah. And the narration and the sort of creativity and the art style that comes with a lot of video games is how people consume art in some ways. So just interesting to see that.
It is.
Like, that argument never dies, but also how and when do people care about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. In the evolution, it's very interesting.
So the evolution,
the
if you will.
But
I'm going to be removed from my own podcast in a minute.
Get the hook on you.
Thanks anyway.
But so that was basically my thoughts on the art and theater from the movie. So then I don't know if I should if what we want to explore next is women in entertainment, because there's a lot to say, or even particular, because I also have a couple of questions that I want to pose to you guys about Eve and your thoughts on her journey in this movie.
Where would you like to go?
You know what? Let's do Eve.
Sure.
All about her.
It's your show,
yes.
Val. We're just riding along.
So, spoilers.
for
75-year-old movie.
Holy Moses, I need a second.
Did you age a little there?
Yeah, I'm good. Okay, we're fine. Everything's fine.
We've got her fainting couch for her. She's good.
But you go through this entire movie, and it's not until almost the end-ish that you're like, oh, Eve has been lying this entire time. She's actually this horrible snake in the grass. So because she's acting, we as the audience know that she's acting, but some of the characters don't quite know this yet. Mm-hmm. When I was watching this, I'm like, I feel like there's only 3 parts in this entire movie where the Eve Harrington mask falls and we actually see who she really is. Yeah. And I was just curious, when do you guys think that happens? When do we actually see who Eve, not Eve Harrington, the person she's been pretending to be in front of this inner group of theater people and theater adjacent people, but when is she just herself?
Do you have thoughts?
I do. I have 3.
I do as well. But if she's asking us to guess, then
I don't.
It's not a guess. It's a discussion.
Did it happen? I don't know. I'm just kidding.
Or did it happen? Like, did you ever see the mask fall?
Oh, 100%. And it's funny, and you will likely talk about it. And forgive me, is it Bernie or Birdie?
Birdie.
So I have my suspicions from the beginning when Bernie's like, no, fuck this girl. Like, it's great because she's the only one I think who sees it clearly from the get-go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Birdie's never seen the mask on. And I think that's really interesting to be like,
I agree.
You're a truth-telling friend who's like, nah, this shit's fucked. For me, obviously, when she's like, please come talk to me about, like, she has Karen come at the restaurant to talk to her and to, like, try and, I'm going to say blackmail her. Not try, that's her goal, right? It becomes pretty fucking clear what's going on there. Yeah. Because she's like, I will ruin your life. Yeah. I think you see it as well in, well, actually, you go. I'm just going to dominate the conversation otherwise.
No, go ahead, because I have my ideas. So
okay, good.
I'll go after.
I think you see it I see it when she starts trying to seduce Bill. For me, that's the big one where you're like, oh, you're here because you want to bang this guy because this is all about your own personal gain. That's what this is for. And it's that when she has her friend call and say, Eve is so sick, to Lloyd as well. Yes. Right? Like, that's an obvious. There's some, like, really obvious ones, and then there's some less obvious ones, but those to me are, like, the big, like, oh, shit.
Yeah. Yeah, the scene in the restaurant at the bathroom in, I think it's 21, super legendary, like, LA restaurant. I think at some point there. Yeah. Anyways, that's the one where it's fully, like, she has the turn where she's still being, like, nicer to Karen and just like, I'm sorry I've caused so much unhappiness.
I don't think you meant to cause unhappiness. Yeah. No, I did actually get that.
Yeah, and then there's the moment where she's like, no, there is something you can do. And then Karen knows, she's like, oh, okay, this is who you've been the whole time. I think the part that's the first one that Margot plays off as, oh, there's this starry-eyed kid, is when she takes the dress and goes on stage and fakes that she is bowing to the crowd. With
yeah, fair. Yeah.
That's the one where it's like, okay, she's just, I'm here and I'm so starstruck and this is great and da-da-da. Oh, I'm groveling at everybody's feet basically because I am such a fan of the theater. And she's like, oh, let me help you with that. You've got so much important to do. And that's the first time where she inserts herself to do something that's selfish for her. Yep. She's like, I will take this onto the stage and bow, and this is the thing I've always wanted to do, and I'm now on my way to, like, now I will do anything to get going with this. So there's that moment. There's the one at the party where Margot gets really drunk, and at some point, Lloyd and Addison are kind of sitting on the stairway.
They're all on the stairs.
And having this discussion about, like, the theater and the, like, lower levels of, oh, blah, blah, blah. Like, they're kind of cynical about it. And Eve has this little meandering bit where she's not looking at anyone. She's got, like, 1,000-yard stare on, talking about the glory and the adoring fans. And just to be able... So that's the second where you're like, okay. I was like, yes, so this is building... And you kind of go like, okay. So there's something there, and then the rest as it goes on gets more overt. But the part on stage, I think, is the first time I noticed it. Okay. Yeah.
There's also, I do have, I went to my notes, because I do that sometimes. I have a line early on, a bunch of old white dudes applauding the pretty young thing, which I think is funny, but we can come back to that.
PYT.
Yeah, well, that too. Eve's sob story about being a poor white child, which killed me.
I was born a poor white woman.
On a poor farm.
Right, exactly. But sort of around there's this moment where Bill talks about the lack of pretense on Eve. And he's like, oh, it's so refreshing to have this essentially starry-eyed kid. And he uses the term lack of pretense.
Yeah.
And that, I'm like, no, obviously there is some kind of pretense, right? Because she has this whole sob story. And there's a shift in the music.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's the first time you really hear it go from like doo-doo-doo to having a little bit more of a down. I don't remember the specifics.
Yeah.
But my note here is like this music shift, Margot first realizes she's actually not a fan of Eve's.
Yeah.
But you're not given the specifics about why, right? Is she not a fan because she's the young ingenue, or is she not a fan because she doubts her motives or what have you? I doubt her motives at that point, but I also, keeping in mind, I've watched the movie before, so I think perhaps I'm picking up on my doubt earlier because I already know. So there's that.
I had similar but slightly different times where I was like, oh, the Eve Harrington mask has fallen, and we're seeing, I forget what she says her real name is.
No, it's something completely different. I don't remember either.
Eve, the real person.
I didn't write it down, but
poor white girl Eve when we see her.
Yeah, I was born a poor white child.
The first time I noticed it is the staircase. It's not just the 1,000-mile stair.
Yeah.
It feels like when she's talking, it's the first time she's not acting for the group.
Yeah.
Which she has been since she went to the dressing room and was telling them her sob story. And I find it really telling that what she is focused on is the audience, the attention, the adulation.
The stardom.
Which then brings me to, is Eve actually a good actress? I'd argue yes, because she has everybody fooled, but again, we never actually do see her act.
Yeah.
The second time is also the dressing room where she is trying to seduce Bill, but it specifically is when he has rejected her.
Yeah.
And she is fuming, and she whips her wig off, and she throws, and she actually tries to rip it in half.
Yeah.
I think it might be that, and the dress scene might be the only time Eve doesn't know someone's watching her, because otherwise she knows she's being constantly observed.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I think it's the only time, and you're meant to interpret it, if you don't know that she's going to end up being a horrible person, you're meant to interpret it as that, oh, she's upset because this man has rejected her, when really it's like her plans to get Margot's team on her side so she can achieve the stardom dream has been foiled because Bill's not going to help her.
Yeah.
And then the third time, I do think, is at the very end, where we are getting essentially the same Margot Eve story, except now it's Eve and Phoebe.
Yeah.
And where Margot dropped her walls with Eve because she felt bad for her, Eve's now doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's necessarily apathy because she's really over it, or if it's just because she's like, I've achieved what I wanted to achieve and now I don't have to be on guard. When we learn at the end of the movie that you always have to be on guard.
Yeah.
If you are a woman in the entertainment industry. And for the 1950s, if you are a woman who is in any kind of career, period, that is not in the house.
Very fair. I had to look it up. You both know it will irritate me if I don't. Her real name is Gertrude Slichinsky.
Gertrude Slichinsky.
Rolls right off the tongue. That is and she's supposed to be from Wisconsin. That is a Wisconsin-ass sounding name.
Yeah, that's...
Apologies to any of our listeners in Wisconsin.
And also apologies to, like, literally all of my Eastern European friends and family who are like, how did you say that name so horribly? I apologize.
Sounding drunk. Slichinsky.
Yeah, it's bad. I did a terrible job. But yes, truly not Eve at all.
No.
To be fair, would she have picked Eve Harrington to be a stage name anyway? Because would people... I mean, we know that they changed names, although, like, Rock Hudson's name wasn't Rock.
What?
Yeah.
I know, try to contain your shock. But, so, like, that was a thing that happened all the time. Cary Grant, for that matter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And a huge amount of people went by stage names. Even kind of, some of them still do.
A little bit today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a note that just says, oh, Phoebes.
Oh, Phoebes.
At the end.
Yeah, that ending I'm sure we'll get to in a little more detail, but yeah, that's, I think actually there's even an argument to be made that final scene is the actual only time she is completely down, because even in those other times, and the staircase, I think there's probably an argument there too, but even in the times where she is talking to Addison about some of the backroom dealings she's trying to get done, or that she's trying to backstab, or finds out certain things, even then, and Addison scolds her at the end and, like, really kind of throws her around a bit, as like, you will not treat me with this kind of disrespect. Like, you can fool the rest of them, but you can't fool me. And even then, she's still like, she's maybe 80% Ms. Slashinsky at that point in time. Yeah. But even there's still 20% where she's like, I'm still going to play this critic for a fool.
Well, I feel like that whole scene where she throws herself on the bed and is hysterical, kind of like she's crying and so upset. I genuinely do think that that's still her trying to play upon if he has any pity for her. Yeah. So 100%. It's not Gertrude. It's still, like you said, there's still some Eve happening there.
You can put that award where your heart used to be.
And then, well, and then even when it gets, with between Addison and Eve, where it gets, a little sadomasochistic creepy, where he's like, tell me. Yeah. Tell me you belong to me, Eve. And poor thing, and this is where we could jump off into women in the entertainment industry, she has no choice if she wants to continue on with her career except to supplement her, like submit. Yeah. Mm-hmm. She has no choice but to submit herself to what he wants, which is to say that she belongs to him. Yeah. And I still think that is Gertrude being Eve, not so much the other way around.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he slaps her, which I can't fucking...
Can we talk about that slap? I've seen stage slaps. That was wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was and I know the sound effect makes it sound 1,000 times worse, but he clocked her.
Yeah.
Oh, he straight up slapped her.
Like, he super clocked her.
I didn't look up if that was the case, but it certainly feels like that was the case.
Well, and I mean, I'm going to be that guy. In 1950, I'm assuming probably filmed in 49, released in 50. Yeah. Around that time.
Makes sense.
Do we have fight coordinators in stage combat? No.
We definitely don't have intimacy coordinators.
We don't have that. That's a fairly recent thing and should be in more stuff, frankly. But glad it's happening now. Certainly wasn't happening then. We don't have, people who are worried about, the paint in The Wizard of Oz causing you cancer and death. Like, oh my God, the Tin Man is the girl in gold from Goldfinger. Everything's coming together. But, like, we're not worried about any of that stuff, right? Yeah. So if they were like, oh, she needs to be slapped, I'm sure they didn't say to her, do you consent to being... It was like, you're going to get slapped here.
Well, and most of the time I think a lot of those times where there's been real slaps in movies, it's either been accidental and they caught it on film and just kept it in there anyways. Yeah. Or... it's been the actors saying, hey, on this take, give her. Yeah. Like go, I will prepare myself to be slapped here. Because Marlon Brando has that in a couple of films where he's, like, actually been slapped by an actor. And in that one, they just, like, they do it a couple of times, and because he's Marlon Brando and the whole actor studio school of, method acting, he's just like, no, clock me. Like, really, just hammer it home. I wonder if that's the case here, because it is one of those where you're like, oh, that was real.
Yeah, hand touched cheek. Yeah, definitely.
But it never seemed like it was like that. Anne Baxter wasn't expecting it. Like, it's like I got slapped, and you can tell when you really get hit.
Well, I was gonna say, the way I read it though, I was like, Anne Baxter looks like legit surprised that. So I'm kind of wondering, maybe it was in the script, like she gets slapped, but it's like, did she expect Addison to hit her as hard as, because it does look so like such a hard hit.
I'm not a fan. Yeah. But yeah, fair.
Oh, I've got a note. So speaking of Eve and Phoebe, I've got a note. I'm like, seriously, Eve, you invented stranger danger, and now you're falling for it.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So the stranger danger movie title. Yeah. I actually, yes, agreed. My note says, whew, this is very single white female of them all.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if single white female's ending is inspired by this movie.
Yeah. Well, so I had a note somewhere in here where there's the scene. So it's after Margot's had the phone call with Bill to wish him happy birthday, and we later find out that Eve had kind of set this up on purpose to make Margot look foolish. Yeah. And it's the next morning, and Eve comes in to give Margot like her agenda for the day, and Margot says something. Margot or Eve, someone says something about, anyway, the dress Eve is wearing, and Eve's like, it's one of Margot's old dresses. Yeah. That Eve has altered so that it fits her more fashionably. So that was one of my thoughts. I'm like, that's a little single white female of this, is she's now wearing her clothes. And then that leads to the conversation Birdie has with Margot about, like, she's trying to, like, copy you. She's trying to become you.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I think in that, because I caught that too, Margot talks, I think Margot's one who's given her the dress. And Margot is still in this, like, oh, what a sweet little darling, I think, point of Eve?
She even says the dress is too 17-ish for her. The dress is too young. It belongs on a younger woman.
Yeah, and she gives her that dress. So there's a lot of that age stuff, which obviously I think you have thoughts about.
Many.
I'm not surprised. But Margot feels like she's being, like, the benevolent, older, like, wiser person. Like, oh, you're so hard done by, and the husband died in the war, probably, and you're just a wee baby. Here, let me give this to you because you're had a sob story.
Yeah.
Look how good I am to give this to you.
Yeah.
So Margot, I think, doesn't do it because it's out of the goodness of her heart. It makes her feel better.
Yeah.
Which is interesting when we talk about Margot's motivations for things, too.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of this movie is that she's being told or that she is difficult to work with, and she's just accepted that as the thing that she's doing. And, you know, whether it's Karen, who is sort of setting her up for this as an idea, but just sort of saying, like, sometimes you have to be a human, and then the other part of it being, I'm sure we're going to talk about a lot of them turning 40, and suddenly, like, seeing the end of her career in that, and going, what do I have left if I were to be done right now? And okay, well, I'm going to try to be a little more generous and more benevolent, and it goes how it goes.
I think that that's a good point to now leap into ageism and sexism for women in entertainment.
And I have a thought about Margot and her benevolence, but we can come back to that after.
Well, so I'm going to try and encapsulate all of the women, because as I think the third or fourth time I watched the movie, I studied for this podcast moment.
Wow, you're so much
We only do
cooler
it
than
once
us.
before we do it.
We watch it once.
I wanted to make sure I had all of my thoughts sorted, which I think I've been like 65% successful with so far.
You're doing far better than I am, which is usually a hot take like over and over and then something random that's ridiculous. So way to go, Ash.
But we have, so All About Eve, we have this very excellent ensemble cast, not just like our main 6 characters, but all of the supporting players, which do include Birdie and the Marilyn Monroe character, whose name I am.
Miss Caswell.
Miss Caswell includes Birdie and Miss Caswell. And all of which were women that are currently up and coming, in the middle of, or have been and now are retired from working in theater and the arts and the entertainment industry. Yeah. And I was like, we basically have the maiden mother crone of women in entertainment. Maiden being Eve, mother being Margot, and crone being Birdie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was so interesting because you're constantly being reminded that there's always another maiden coming up behind you. And in Margot's case, if you can't successfully transition to the mother role, you will become a crone like Birdie. Except I think they're trying to make it sound like Birdie's the worst to be. Birdie has the best life.
Yeah.
And Birdie does not suffer fools. That's why, like, alternate title, why is no one listening to Birdie?
Yeah.
Yeah, Birdie knows what the fuck's happening from the get-go. And that comes with maybe age and wisdom, perhaps, as part of that for Birdie. Because she's just like, I've seen this shit happen before.
Yeah. I think the first time I laugh out loud in this movie is, like, Eve gives the poor white girl Wisconsin farm story. Husband died in the war, had to smell beer all day. Until
I forgot about
working at a brewery.
Until Margot came into my life, and now I have meaning and purpose, and that's to stalk her.
What a meaning.
And when she finishes the story, she actually brings Margot to tears, and Margot's like, she is a tough broad, and this story has actually affected her. And Birdie's response is, what a story. All it was missing was the dogs chasing on your heels to bite you in the ass. She calls the bullshit right off the hop.
Well, see, she calls the bullshit, but they also kind of give Birdie a little bit of scolding for that.
They do.
Why are you so crass? And she sort of, like, there's an allusion to her being in vaudeville.
Yes.
Which is a very different form of theater and a very, we're going to call it tougher crowd, and you're there to be the dancing monkey, for lack of a better term, and you entertain for the laughs and get off of there and get paid very little to do it. So you have a pretty hardened exterior to be able to, like, take any criticism. And I mean, those are the days where they were literally hurling tomatoes at you.
Well, and I think it too is playing into, like, it's a little bit know your place-ish, where I think Birdie has a lot more freedom from the constraints of, like, womanhood, quote marks, but it's still a know your place, which is listening to the mother, the Betty Davis character. And it's like, if you want to remain where you are, you have to play ball. And that is like, and even though the way she apologizes to Eve too, it's like, I just like how she apologizes. She's like, sorry if I offended you. I'm like, I actually really like how she says it.
Yeah.
And then I also really enjoy when her and Margot were talking after Margot's starting to get suspicious of Eve. And it's the question of, can I ask your opinion? Do you want an argument or an answer?
Yeah.
And it's, I want an answer. Do you like Eve? No. Why? So you want an argument.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, too, there's an interesting parallel here between, you're talking maiden, mother, crone, and what we were talking about earlier with the ebbs and flows of what's considered highbrow or popular entertainment, right? Birdie is the crone. She's also the old form of theater nobody gives a shit about anymore.
Nope.
Now we've got the current form of theater as Margot, who's the mother, and now Eve is going to go into motion pictures, and she's the maiden, she's the new form. So it's just an interesting parallel between women in stages and art in stages, and women are really the art, and why do men exist? Thanks. No, I'm just kidding.
We're here to host the podcasts.
Aw, you record things. Thanks.
And if you were Lloyd, to write the debutantes.
I must write the same character.
Nobody knows a 20-year-old woman like an aging white man.
And, what's really fun, it's true, is Lloyd David Mamet.
Yeah.
Because he can't write women to save his I'm assuming. I have a lot of thoughts, and, one day this will somehow get to David Mamet. And he'll be like, why does this woman hate me so much?
What have I done?
And to be fair, I think David Mamet writes really great dudes. He does a really shit job of women.
I love House of Games. Thanks for that one, David.
I mean, I like a lot of things David Mamet's done. He can't write women to save his life. Back to the point of this.
Yes.
Yeah, I just think it's an interesting parallel.
Well, and then I wanted to, so that was the crone. We're going backwards. We've talked about the maiden too. So we're going in the middle now, which is Margot, the mother. And at first I was like, is she really the mother? But then she has that confessional in the car with Karen where she's talking about her career. And it's like, you spend so much energy and focus going up the ladder, you leave things behind so you can get to the top, and then it's when you're at the top you realize all the stuff you left at the bottom you actually need.
Yeah.
And she's essentially talking about aging out of her career at 40.
Let's not talk about that part.
And that now that she's no longer going to be an actress, because it's like, I can't be an actress and be 40, I have to be a woman. Well, in order to be a woman, what do you need? You need a man. And her concern, of course, is that she is with Bill, who is younger.
Yep.
He'll want someone younger, so there's always that threat hovering over Margot's insecurities.
Yeah.
And I just, as someone who has turned 40 and is single, it's like, I think I wrote that down with many exclamation points and underlines. I hate that this discussion about sexism still is relevant so much so today, because it still is. The question is always like, why are you single? And what is the point if you're just going to be single?
Yeah, because, your contributions to society and art and just general joy and other people that you love in your life, that doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
No.
It's
according to Margot, unless I can roll over in bed and see his face, nothing matters.
Well, and it's interesting, actually, because I have a note about Margot's rant about Asian men in the kitchen during the Bill party scene.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's very drunk. But she's having that rant while she's getting the I want to say Pepto-Bismol, but the
bicarbonate
of soda for the producer, for
Max.
Maxie, blah blah blah, and she has that whole rant about what it means to be a woman who's ostensibly about to age out. And my note here is, holy shit, do we hope 40 isn't old? So it's true though, right? And she sees that even at the party because Marilyn Monroe's character shows up. And she's even younger, really, than Eve at this point. Yeah. So you're getting you're seeing the younger bomb blonde shells. But it's true. You're seeing this sort of generation gap, or generations, regenerating, essentially. It's the same wheel.
And the thing that's upsetting is it's not even really generations. It's 5 years younger.
Yeah.
That is not a generation.
No, but in terms of actress generation, right? Or the class of whatever, and the wheel keeps spinning and you keep seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's very, I feel so frustrated for Margot. I'm like, Margot, I want to be your friend. Because she definitely needed someone to hype her up when she became so focused on the age gap between her and Bill. Yeah. And I do like that they set up that that's clearly something that already concerns her before Eve ever comes into the picture. It just gets amplified once Eve is always around. It doesn't help that Eve is actively trying to seduce Bill, but
There's that.
I did appreciate though that they right off the hop were like, Margot has nothing to worry about. Bill is in love with her because essentially when he meets Eve for the first time, he doesn't even remember saying hello to her.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I appreciate that, but that's not the point. It's the women competing with other women for men's attention. That's the point.
Yeah, because a lot of the manifestation of Margot's insecurity you see in like the action she takes to others, but there's also those moments of like where she is introspective and thinking, and you can very clearly tell it's like she doesn't like who she is because she's not young enough for her boyfriend, who she now is eventually going to marry, in her own mind. Bill has no problem with that.
Yeah.
And it's very much, she has this hurdle to get over, and she is in an industry where you are discarded for the younger model very early on. I mean, listen, in the 1950s, at that point being 40 years old, the fact that Margot is still a big star tells you that she probably is a pretty amazing actress, and probably had a big role in her 20s that has carried her to a point where, like, yes, she can still play somebody who's very young on the stage, which in movies, that was a little bit tougher than to do. But, like, it's all in there because of this societal, like, the younger women are coming for me, and I have to, I'm never young enough, I'm never good enough, I'm always, but I am, and she doesn't accept herself at all.
And I want to pick up on something you said, and Ash, you maybe are doing it too because of lived experience versus the dude at the table. And you're like, Margot is very concerned about the age gap. It's not a problem for Bill. Of course it's fucking not. It's never a problem for dudes.
To be with an older woman.
To be with an older woman, or to worry, or women, or whatever. But to worry about aging out, right? Age is never a concern for men because they're allowed to age. Women are not. And they weren't allowed in the 50s, and unfortunately, they're still fucking not.
Well, and again, Margot has, in The Kitchen with Max, she has that really fantastic line about being 40, and Max is trying to reassure her, you're a star, you'll always be significant and amazing. And she's like, I'm 40, playing a 20-year-old who looks like a 40-year-old. Bill is 32. He will turn 60, and he's gonna look 32.
He'll look 32 in 5 years. He looked 32 5 years ago.
Exactly.
He is the demographic.
Exactly. When it looks 18
and then,
to 35.
If we want to, like, all about Eveception with all of this, Betty Davis, and the actor who played Bill, did get married in real life, she very famously, after they divorced, she very famously said he married Margot Channing, and there was the age gap between the two of them, and when you see Margot's idea of a happy ending is they're all having dinner, and she's like, Bill and I are going to City Hall, we're going to get the license, we're getting married, and she thinks she's achieved the happy ending now that her career is over, quote unquote, and I can't help but think, nope, this is going to go the same way Betty Davis's real marriage to this man went, which is we married the person we worked with, not the partner and spouse I want them to be when we're at home alone.
And that's a hard thing to separate, I think, in general, right? Who are you? And when you're so tied to your work, who are you as a person, right?
Well, especially when you only knew them as someone who was a working individual, and then they stopped working. Because again, that happened with Betty Davis. She did try to be a homemaker, and that is when that marriage fell apart. Because she's not a very good she's a great actress. She's not a very good homemaker.
I understand that feeling. Also not a very great homemaker. Not a great actress either, to be fair, but certainly not Betty Davis level.
And it was just very frustrating because it's like, I was like, I wish I didn't know this. Because I want to believe in Margot's vision of this happily ever after, just as badly as she wants to, and I'm like, it's just probably not going to happen. It could end up being a situation similar to Karen's. Like it's super insinuated. I don't know that you guys have any doubts about this, but Lloyd and Eve do sleep together, right? Like there is some affair happening there.
I don't think there is
just yet.
Okay,
I think it's close.
But when she called him to come to her house in like the middle of the night, and it was this conspiracy between her and I guess her roommate, I was very much like, she's gone to seduce him, and he's going to spend the night and saying, oh, we were running lines, but really they just slept together.
But like he has that conversation, he goes because he's worried about her.
But I don't think it would take much for her to convince him to not be worried about being worried about her.
Potentially.
Fair. I have an interesting wrinkle I'd like to throw in here.
Okay.
Is Eve queer?
Go on.
Yes, go on.
That roommate? Is that her roommate? Or is that her roommate? Like, there's this, Eve doesn't really, you see her flirting with a lot of dudes, you see her trying to seduce a lot of men, but it's not for the motivations of, I'm seducing the man because I really like this man.
Yeah.
In the way that you see Karen's married to Lloyd because she loved him.
Yeah.
And Margot's going to marry Bill and they're thinking happy ending because she loves him. And Addison recognizes Eve as a power player.
Yeah.
That's the reason there's a relationship there at all. I think Eve is closeted. And I don't think she wants to sleep with any of the dudes.
I actually think you could read Eve as pansexual because I don't think Eve cares. I don't think there's that I'm attracted to men, so I'm going to go after the men. I'm attracted to the women, I'm going to go after them. I genuinely think she's like, I am attracted to this future I've envisioned for myself, this stardom, this power. Who do I have to sleep with if that's what I have to do to get to where I need to be? So I actually think she kind of almost like defies asexuality.
I could see that. I think there's probably a little bit of, because all we see of her is the kind of all-consuming, like, how do I get to the next level? How do I, who do I step on to move higher up? So it isn't really given a lot of mind other than the times where she is trying to seduce anybody to get to a better situation. And I think the reason Lloyd does go in that situation is because he now is probably realizing that, like, Eve Harrington is now my meal ticket to continue to being Lloyd Richards. And Margot Channing is not that anymore, so I am going to go and make sure that I can continue to be Lloyd Richards by assuring this. And, you know, if he did other things, then he's just a shitty dude.
I very much did read that as, like, she invited him over to seduce him. We know Eve's a liar, but she even, like, says to Addison, like, Lloyd and I are going to get married. And because she's so malicious and she's a planner... I don't think Eve would say that without being able to back it up with, and we did sleep together. That's why I can say, even if it's not necessarily true, that he's going to leave his wife.
Yeah, it could be. I could see that for sure.
I don't know. It's interesting. I had to look up the quote because this is, I think, the one that gets me. It's when Eve and Addison are having that, like, row at the end.
After the slap?
It's in the same time as a slap. And he said, when he reveals that he knows everything.
Yeah.
And Addison says, "You're an improbable person, Eve, and so am I. We have that in common.
Yeah.
Also a contempt for humanity, an inability to be loved, insatiable ambition and talent. We deserve each other." And so, is she just an ambitious woman?
Yeah. Or,
because pop psychology at the time, you know, queer people did not form appropriate bonds with anybody else. And, like, she's got her roommate and they go up arm in arm, which could maybe be fine, but also could maybe be, when we talk celluloid closet and things that you're, like, trying to pick up on.
Yeah.
I really read Eve as a queer figure, not necessarily that she's a lesbian, but that she doesn't fit with this sort of happy homemaker. And is that her ambition? Does that make her kind of a queer character in that way? Or is she actually interested in, because you know, you get the sob story about her husband went off to war and whatever, and Eve is ostensibly younger than Margot, but you don't get how young she is.
No.
And then when you get Phoebe's, poor Phoebe's, when you get Phoebe in the end, she's obviously quite young.
Yes.
And when we talk
I think they even say she's a teenager.
She's in high school. And Miss Caswell falls somewhere in the middle there. So is Eve actually later 20s and into her early 30s? Perhaps. And if she is, then she's a spinster. Why is she a spinster and unmarried? Is she a spinster and unmarried because she wants to become Margot? And I think for me too, part of that is like single white femaling, but also because is she a little bit in love with Margot? Yeah. Right? And is that why she's alone, or is she alone because she has ambition, and that's the thing that women also aren't allowed to have in 1950?
Yeah.
I think it's a little of column A and a little of column B.
Totally. And correct me if I'm wrong.
I will.
If in the ending part where Addison is going through and kind of revealing these details about, like, your parents are still in Wisconsin, they would like to know where you are. So he's clearly done some digging.
Yeah.
There is something there about her sleeping with somebody
her boss,
at the brewery,
her
the
former
boss of the brewery. So like she has this sort of serial history of sleeping her way to the top in one way or another. So I think either way it could.
Yeah, I mean bisexuals exist. So hi.
You mean in the 50s they existed?
Yeah, we've existed for a long time.
I don't know if you've seen this, you made mention of this. There's a really wonderful documentary out there called The Celluloid Closet.
It's on my list.
I
can't believe I haven't seen.
It's hard to find like DVDs of. I got mine a while ago, but it's also books. So there is a book of this like history of queer characters in cinema. Totally worth watching or reading.
Oh, excellent.
And I think for me too, just because we're talking about women and like the roles they're afforded, and I like to pick up in queer context. I don't know if you know this, either of you. Shocking. But for me, Eve is often what happens in movies, especially at this time. If there is a queer character, they're the villain. Mm-hmm. And if there's a queer character, they have a tragic end. Eve doesn't necessarily have a tragic end here, but you see that cycle's about to repeat itself.
Yes.
And does that make her a tragic sort of character in the same way that Margot is, in that she's like gonna have to just get maybe married and be unhappy, and like her career will be over when she's done. So I think whether she's out and out like in the closet and super queer, or she has those elements, I read that in interesting. It complicates her motivations for me a little bit.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
So when you were talking about like how old is Eve and she's a spinster. So Eve to me,
I say spinster aggressively.
Yes.
You know what I mean. And when I say it, I mean like we're setting in the socio-cultural political timing of a spinster in 1950. If you're not married by 25 and popping out children, your life is over.
It's
so
over.
That's where
talk
I'm
to some people today.
I mean, also true, but like specifically the way that when this movie's being made.
But I do think Eve actually, I know I designated her the maiden. I actually do think she's on the cusp of like maiden mother, because she has been married once before. But one of my favorite scenes, and again, this is why I watched the movie many times, because I'm like, I think this is how I am reading it myself, is at the party, Addison has come with Miss Caswell. Yeah. She is full decked out in white. Eve is now starting to wear Margot's clothing, which is much darker. Yeah. So you have some color symbolism happening with the clothes. Miss Caswell, he takes off her fur wrap, and hands it off to Margot. And then Margot hands that off to Birdie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes the like boom, boom, boom.
And when I saw Miss Caswell, when I saw beautiful Marilyn, and she's in this full white, beautiful looking outfit, it brought me back to when we first meet Eve in the dark, creepy alley of the backstage area. And yes, she's in a frumpy raincoat and hat, but lighted, it's very white. Yeah. Very youthful.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then we start to see her cycle to where she's wearing the darker clothes, and part of that is trying to emulate Margot. We do see her in this beautiful white gown when she's receiving her award. Yeah. And then what happens? Phoebe puts on the cloak and is now dressed in this beautiful white sparkly gown. And it's like, and this is the new Eve that's going to come up the way.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting, one of my favorite lines in this movie. And it's this cycle, the cyclical, and women competing with each other, right? Yeah. And like, we're told we have to. But when Lloyd loses his mind in that argument with Margot about like, who's actually in charge here, he says their problems won't be over because actresses never die. Yeah. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
If there's
you should be.
If there's not a line that summed up this fucking movie, bro.
This is maybe one of, like, in the top 5 of all-time, like, one-liners in...
Yes.
Just in the amount. Yeah. Like, there is the one when Marilyn Monroe shows up, Miss Caswell, and Addison points her towards Max to say, there is the producer. And she looks at him and goes, why do they all look like unhappy rabbits?
I want you to say that a bit more breathy. Be more Marilyn.
Can't quite get Marilyn. And then Addison just goes, it's because they are. Go make them happy. And then, like, when...
And that hurts so much when you know what her career was like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there are lines.
Hindsight.
Yeah, but there are lines throughout this movie that are just, like...
They're excellent.
You can say in any kind of, like, other type of theatrical context, like, actresses never die. That's really a great line. The one where it's the Margot's drunk and they're all talking about, like, oh, Eve, and she's so nice, and she's already mad at Eve, and she's like, oh, we're all busy little bees, day and night, making honey, and turns to Eve and goes, aren't we, honey? Like, there is some all-timers, like, peppered through this movie.
No, they are really, really, really good. Yeah. And I do want to take just a little time to talk about Marilyn, my queen, which I have written beautifully here in my notes. Here's the thing that always cheeses me right the fuck off about Marilyn Monroe's careers. I'm like, this woman does not get enough credit, especially her early career. Mm-hmm. And when you know about, like, she was constantly going to acting classes, constantly trying to improve. And it's back to that scene on the staircase. She's there to do a job, which is become chummy with the producer to get an audition. Mm-hmm. And she's trying to get a drink. And it's that scene Addison says something to her. I forget what it was. It's like that's a butler, not a waiter. Yeah. She's like, I can't very well say butler. That could be someone's name. Yeah. And she's doing so much acting with her eyes where you can see her formulating her plan to, and like she's forecasting, and now I'm going to ask and flirt with the director. Max, would you please go and get me a drink?
Yeah.
And I'm like, this was like, again, her first major motion picture, and it's such a small role. And I'm like, it's all there. And this woman did not get enough credit when she was working, and I still think a lot of times does not get enough credit after many decades since she has passed away.
Well, no, because what do we talk about? Her love affairs and how she died, and isn't that fucking irritating? That's
It
the thing we
is.
talk about.
Yeah.
There's another really great line, but you have thoughts.
I was only going to say, and she did, now, how she passed away was very tragic, but she did pass away before she turned 40.
Yeah.
Actresses never die.
Right? And since we're talking about lines that I think are great, and I think also talk about this, Karen has a line where she says she discovered cynicism when she discovered she wasn't a little boy.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important commentary on this whole thing. Why are women so cynical? Because why is Margot, what are Margot's, well, that's another question, but why is Margot so concerned about Eve, and then Eve will be concerned about Phoebe, and all of these things. And Karen's just kind of floating on the side here. She doesn't have to worry about getting replaced because she married the guy. And divorce isn't really a thing in 1950 so much.
Well, and don't forget, Addison even says to Eve when Eve is like, whether or not she slept with Lloyd, Eve is trying to set those steps in place for Lloyd to leave Karen. And Addison flat out says, Lloyd could sleep with you, he could sleep with whoever, he will not leave his wife.
Yeah, he's not leaving Karen.
No.
It's never going to happen. But yeah, just Karen is this like cynical sort of side figure, and it was her talking about what it was like growing up and how she ended up in university, and that's why she's here, and yada yada. And it's just this really interesting, like, I discovered cynicism when I discovered I wasn't a little boy. And how many times has that been the thing for, like, when you get told you suddenly can't do the things boys can do.
Yeah.
Or you discover you're different. Or, like, we all have that first story of, like, wait, what? What do you mean I can't do the fun thing boys can do? I want to be in Cubs and not in Brownies. Not that that's a specific story from my life recently.
Not at all.
No truth. As you're saying this, though, right this very moment, I am very much reminded of the women are born with pain speech from Fleabag.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it's like, this is why we experience the world differently. We were born with pain already inside us.
Yeah.
That's called our uterus. And that's not just women. Uterus having folks, they suck. So, yeah. I think there's a lot of commentary on gender in this. And again, where it's placed in time, right?
It's very, very interesting because I know I have my first note here, which is like Addison is a catty bitch. But like I think there's a lot of argument too that Addison is not a straight man at all. Which I find it so interesting that he becomes so not so much obsessed with Eve, but with ownership of Eve. And I have a note here. By owning Eve, is this Addison playing God of the theater? Like he's like, I'm a critic, but I'm the lowest of the low, but I make myself important by controlling the actresses.
Oh, I agree 100%. I think that's the case. And Addison's a catty bitch the whole time, and he gets called that, obviously. He's not, I also don't read him as a straight man.
No.
Because if he were, he'd also be married.
Yeah.
Well, and he was...
Well, I mean, based on the time period, you don't have to be married to be straight. But...
Well, I was going to say that, like, and while I inferred, like, oh, Eve has seduced Lloyd, we see her try to seduce Bill, I'm like, I never once think Addison and Eve's relationship is sexual whatsoever. I'm like, this is very much like catty versus catty.
Well, they say it at the end, right? He keeps referring to her as a killer, and she said, "Oh no, that's more of a champion." He's like, "Sorry, I'm mixing up my boxing metaphors." And then when they get into it at the end, and he said, like, "Now we're on equal footing, and now we know what we're talking about," and he says, "Killer to killer," and she tries to correct him and say, "Champion to champion." He says, "You're no champion to me. That would be stepping way up in class," and that's like that. The line of it. You and I are both killers. Yes. We are not here for any of this humanity bullshit that's there.
Well, that's the
we
line.
are both there to get ahead, and that's where it's like, you're not actually here to have a husband, and I'm not actually here to have a wife. We're both here to have power and fame.
We're both here for our careers.
Yeah.
Well, and I think champion to champion, at the end of the day, Lloyd goes back to, at the end, so Phoebe's there at the hotel, Eve's kind of drinking and smoking her evening away, and Phoebe opens the door when Addison arrives, because he's like, oh, the award got forgotten in the cab, and he sizes Phoebe up immediately, and there is no kinship between Addison and Eve, so he doesn't warn Eve. He's like, I'm gonna let this play out exactly how it plays out. So at the end of the day, sorry, Jess, it's Addison's story. I guess it is Addison's story, because he comes out the champion because he's going to let Eve follow the same path that Margot did.
Gross. You're right. I hate it, but you're right. Gross. I love when we come to these conclusions.
And then, so then my last thought, hear me out.
Okay.
Oh no.
All About Eve.
Is it another Addison thing? I don't like it. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Hear me out. All About Eve.
Okay.
Showgirls.
Okay.
Okay.
The Substance.
Okay.
It's all the same movie.
Okay.
I
This
like
is
that.
interesting because of the two of us here, I'm the one that's seen The Substance.
And I've seen Showgirls.
I've seen both.
I've also seen Showgirls as well.
Well,
So
can't believe you have seen. I'm just kidding. That's not true.
Showgirls is having quite the little like cultural renaissance.
Well, it's an
in the
anniversary
last little bit.
last year or
but
so. But
there's a big critical like people are looking back going like this is kind of an incredible movie.
this is
So-
by than people give it credit for.
Yeah.
What a
So
shock.
I swear I don't get sponsorship. I'm not plugging this for any reasons other than I enjoy them. There is a book by I believe it's a Toronto critic. Showgirls, It's Not As Bad As You Remember It Being.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Excellent. And then a documentary, You Don't Know Me.
Okay.
Fantastic. And just kind of like, again, revisiting that story and the context. But I was thinking about it and I'm like, I think they're all the same movie, kind of told from different perspectives. All About Eve is like the base.
Yeah.
Showgirls is from exclusively the Eve point of view.
Yeah.
And then The Substance is kind of a bit of like equal to both the Eve and the Margot point of view and the journey that the women are going through as they try to work their way around the entertainment industry.
I've heard you out. I like this.
No, and like various like different bents on the genre. Yeah, like I could very much see that, and it's because this movie did become so influential and is still like referenced by certainly name, like you say the name Eve, and people theater people have an idea of exactly the kind of claw your way to the top person that represents. Yeah, I get down with that.
And they all have to do as well, like they all have a Eve, they all have a Margot, and they all have some amalgamation of a Bill, a Lloyd, and an Addison.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Because all of them do have men who control their careers and encourage that fighting and the woman versus woman and who's going to come out on top, the younger or the older one. And inevitably they want the younger one to win.
Always.
But I was I'd watched The Substance recently and I was like, when I watched All About Eve, I was like, this is very similar to this body horror movie I just watched.
Which is really good. Like I'm not a body horror person necessarily as far as like watching a lot of those types of movies. I do love a David Cronenberg movie, but that's about as like I don't go much deeper than that. The Substance was, even though it didn't like I think a lot of the aspects of the characters are probably better explored in All About Eve, but The Substance basically takes a good chunk of that and spirals in its own way. Like it's not necessarily the biggest like, oh, this is saying a lot. It's like, no, it's just taking this to a logical, horrifying conclusion of one way.
That's why I haven't seen it, because I don't do body horror.
Well, and I think too, looking at the production of these three particular movies that I've picked out in general, is when you do finally get to The Substance, it's female written, female directed. You've got, I think, is it Jeff Daniels?
Sorry.
I can't help either of you.
Dennis Quaid.
It's Dennis. Yeah, so you have like the Dennis Quaid is the amalgamation
Of
Bill Lloyd Addison.
Yeah.
Well, Bill Lloydison, if you will.
But he doesn't get remotely the screen time that Sue and Elizabeth.
Yes.
He doesn't get remotely the screen time that Sue and Elizabeth get. So again, now it's kind of like, no, this is their story. And while Margot and Eve get a lot of screen time, so do all of the others. They get like
that's fair.
even-ish billing, I would say.
It's much more of an ensemble play than The Substance is.
Even-ish billing.
But this is Welcome to Dad Jokes with the three of us.
Mostly me today, apparently.
But and again brings me back to, oh my god, I cannot believe we are still having the, like, nothing has really changed much when it comes to this conversation from 1950.
Isn't that fucking disappointing?
It's so upsetting.
I love this movie. I haven't seen The Substance. I enjoy Showgirls. You are probably the reason I've seen Showgirls.
Probably.
This is fun. Hey, for those of you who've listened to any other episode and I say, oh, this is the person who's responsible for me having seen a lot of movies.
Yeah.
before Matt, because you both have great taste. I love both of these movies, but I am also always deeply upset that it hasn't changed enough.
Yeah.
That this isn't like, oh, and we set it in a socio-political cultural time, fine. To go, okay, well, in 1950 this was a thing. And some things have changed.
Yes.
But not enough.
Yep.
The fact that we're still talking about that. The fact that we're still talking about, like, the young ingenues and all of that sort of fucking conversation that keeps happening. And, like, they have inside the actor studios and, like, round tables. What is the one Jada Pinkett Smith has? And I can't think of what the name of it is. The Red Table that she has, like, her show.
Right. I don't know the name of the name.
And she's also had other, like, female actors on, and they've had, like, even you talk about Ellen Pompeo, who talks about it.
Yes.
And, you know, not getting paid the same amount and not having roles for them as they get older. And, like, we've talked a lot about our friend Dame Judi Dench this week, or Meryl Streep, or there are some notable... Frances McDormand and Emma Thompson. Like, there are some notable now actors and actresses, female actors, actresses that are having work into their later years.
Yeah.
But it's still a conversation because it's still not something that always happens.
Yeah.
And again, like Inception, again, that's what
what
was happening with Betty Davis at the time.
100%.
And then she does All About Eve, and then she has another dry spell for like a decade.
Pretty much.
And then whatever happened to Baby Jane?
Yeah.
And then another dry spell, and then she did the really creepy Watcher in the Woods.
And then death.
That was the end.
No, the actresses never die, right? I'm getting confused.
The concept of actresses never die, honey, but people do.
Symbolism.
Concepts don't die. People do.
Sorry to tell. Ooh, that's a great line.
But, and I this is an All About Eve podcast episode, and I know I keep going back to the substance, but Demi Moore, professionally, same issues as Betty Davis. And then even in this movie, even though it is written by a woman, directed by a woman, but still has producers of varying people, shapes, sizes, creeds, and codes that are giving her notes. Demi Moore in real life is 60, and she's playing an actress who is 50, who is getting aged out of the industry.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
Oof. She says oof.
So it's a lot of art imitating life, life imitating art when it comes to this particular topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Unfortunately, the thing that is changing the most is the platform. This is the theater, the movies, and the entertainment industry is showgirls, and the substance is TV, and now eventually the internet and social media. And
I'm glad you went with me on that journey, because I was like, I don't think I'm crazy, but I need to check.
No, I get down with that.
I do. Have you listened to this podcast where I rant about how Dances with Wolves and Pocahontas and Avatar are all the same movie before? I haven't done a single episode about it, but it's a hill on which I will die. So I'm right there.
Throw a splash of Fern Gully in there.
Oh, don't even. We're not going there.
I do find it really interesting, though, again, with my 3-movie motif, is that we go from, like, ensemble character drama to a NC-17 exploitation film to a body horror
film, just getting more grotesque. Yeah.
So not only is this a topic that continues, but it spans genres, and it spans, like you just said, platforms.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I actually have a question just, like, in regards to the insecurity of the aging woman, right? And I think we've talked a lot about Eve, so this is more of a general question, but I'm going to put it in here. At one point during the movie, and this is a note I made rewatching it, it's something I've had thought about, is Eve the manipulator? I think, yes, the answer is she's manipulative, but is Eve the manipulator and Margot is right? Or is Eve made that way from Margot's paranoia?
Ooh.
I'm going to say yes, because it's as you talked about, it's a cycle.
Yeah, well, and I think who's the motivating factor for both of those things? If Margot and Eve were left to their own devices, would they be doing either of these things? If it wasn't from societal male pressure, probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not, because I don't think they're encouraged. I don't think you're encouraged to be supportive. You're not encouraged. Like, even Karen, who is only theater adjacent, she doesn't act, is not encouraged to be a girl's girl. Again, Birdie is the only girl's girl.
Yeah, and I mean, to an extent, Karen, I think, feels she is being one when she tries to help Eve. In that way, but she's clearly not, because she's fucking over Margot, who's supposed to be her best friend.
I was going to say, and isn't it so interesting? She's helping out a stranger who has been flattering and placating, and then who she does not know is secretly, not so secretly, trying to steal her husband.
Yeah.
What a conniving hoe.
And it's kind of one of those, like, are you really going to help out this person you've known for a couple of months? Because they even say in the beginning narration that it's only been like 8 months or something. It's been a very short period of time.
It was October, and it started in October, November, and it's now February or March when the movie starts.
Exactly.
7, 8
and so it's like, you're so willing to screw over your very good friend who is a challenging friend, but still someone you've known many, many years. And you're willing to screw them over for, again, I think it was reasons of trying to be, to humble Margot because Karen's a mean girl. To help this person you've known for all of 3 months.
Yeah.
Is Karen a mean girl because she thinks she's better than the rest of them because she went to college and didn't just immediately jump into theater?
Oh. Karen's not a career girl. Karen's a homemaker.
But Karen went to college, and could she have been?
But in the 40s, you went to college to get married, not to do anything.
Well, no, fair. But, like, does Karen have greater ambitions, or did Karen have greater ambitions for herself, and now she's surrounded by ostensibly successful women, and she cuts them both down?
I think that's a fantastic question, because we do see her doing still life painting at one point, and she does. The actual actress, I think, was incredibly talented at still life.
Yeah, she was.
So we see her doing that, and then clearly in her discussions with Lloyd, he does give her opinion some weight in his decisions.
Quite a bit, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's Karen has to tell Lloyd that Eve can play schmershmer character.
Yeah, it's the Alma Hitchcock thing, where Alfred Hitchcock had to run all of his movie ideas by his wife, and once she got the okay for it, he was ready to do that.
Yeah. So that's really interesting.
It's a complete sidebar and just something that, occurs to me as we're talking.
But it would also be really interesting if that's, like, I think that's a really interesting read, because we've also talked a lot about Addison, the other theater adjacent, who sees himself as above them all.
Yeah.
So wouldn't it make sense that Karen also sees herself above them all, too?
Yeah. No, that makes sense to me.
What a fun one.
Yeah.
Good talk.
Good talk.
Ooh. Anything more that you had down? Because I imagine you and I might have 2 or 3 things to bring up as well.
Ash's hit on most of the stuff I wanted to talk about. I have a couple of, like, sidebar Jess notes, but...
Yeah.
This is completely random, has nothing to do with anything we've talked about, just a thought. Were airports really this chill? They just walked right onto the tarmac, and only one of them's flying.
Yep.
I straight up have written how airlines have changed.
Yep.
That was one of my
Somebody else
Jess
could
thoughts.
go get your tickets validated
Just a
for
smidge.
you.
There is no security's not a thing.
The only concern is don't smoke on the tarmac.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as someone who has had to fly here, and tomorrow will be flying back to Northern Ontario, there's a few more steps to getting on the plane than there used to be.
Just a couple.
Just a bit outside.
A bit.
That was one of my, one of my, like, what? Huh?
One of your live tweet style
It was
thoughts.
one of my live tweets, yeah.
Oh, and then another sign of the times, little sidebar, when, just before the party, when Margot is kind of giving Bill the what, because she's venting her insecurities because he was talking to Eve.
Yeah.
She's going around the living room space, and she's checking for the cigarette supply. And I'm like, so modern day, we'd be checking for, like, the vape supply around the apartment. I just love this idea that people used to go to other people's houses and would not bring their own pack of cigarettes. You were expected as the host to provide the pack of cigarettes.
Provide the cigarettes, clean the ashtrays, make sure that everybody has a good smoking time.
So I got kind of a kick out of that.
Good smoking time.
I also want to know how Betty Davis didn't get tobacco poisoning, because she's constantly smoking in this movie. And it's like, there's more than one take happening here, and all she's doing is smoking. Also smoking in bed.
Yeah.
Bad idea.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
That's not a good one. Yeah. I have a couple of things that I can sort of talk about and bring in with this. Often I like to talk, like, more techie movie things. There isn't a whole lot to talk about with this one, because it's a pretty standardly shot movie. It's well shot and well framed, like when they do some of the, like, the arguing in the theater stuff. They actually do it in a theater. You can hear the echo. Like, those are well staged, and for being a movie about the theater, it makes sense.
Well, and they do it with the actress on stage, and the writer, he's in the wings, but he's elevated.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of, like, that's done pretty well. But there isn't, I've never really found much to talk about as far as, like, oh, there's this amazing shot or this thing. Like, they're all kind of good, but they're all relatively standard. There's a couple of fun backgrounds with this one. One of them has to do with the Oscars, and we talk about women being in competition with each other. There's if anybody is interested in this as a topic, there's a great YouTube video by a creator called Be Kind Rewind.
I love her.
Yeah, she's
I love
great.
her.
And she's done the year of this, the All About Eve year, where Bette Davis and Anne Baxter were both nominated in Best Actress, and neither of them won.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because they split their own vote. Everybody that loved All About Eve either voted for one or the other, and Judy Holliday won for Born Yesterday, which is a very funny performance, but comedies don't typically win,
No.
especially when they're up against something like a 14 nomination Oscar movie. And there was some resentment at the time, because there is old Hollywood is old Hollywood,
Yeah.
and I don't think Bette Davis and Anne Baxter ever worked together again because of that.
They didn't, but surprisingly maintained a friendship.
They did, and that's
which,
really fun.
If you know about Bette Davis, it was very hard for her to maintain friendships, period. Never mind if it was male or female friendships.
Yeah.
Oh, Bette Davis.
So that's kind of interesting, and was a fun little, like, everybody went like, how did Bette Davis not win?
Mm-hmm.
It's because they also campaigned to have Anne Baxter in the same category, and they went split the vote. So,
which makes sense. Like,
Yep.
I can see them both. I can see the case for both of them as lead.
yeah.
I can see the case for both the actresses, for Karen and Birdie, as supporting. I can see the
Yep.
case for all of them.
Yeah.
Totally. And that
And
one,
honestly, Birdie should have fucking won because she's funny as hell.
Thelma Ritter's great. She's one of my favorites.
Way to go, Thelma.
Now, the other one, and this is a fun thread I pulled on after watching this, the first time you and I watched it together.
Yes, it's been a hot minute.
It's been a while, but I remember looking this up because I was like, okay, this award they give out, the Sarah Siddons Award. So Sarah Siddons was an actual stage actress.
I honestly thought they made it up.
No, yeah,
Okay.
that was why I wondered, because I'm like, I wonder if it just came out of nowhere. But she was a real, I think, Welsh actress, but she acted all throughout England and was incredibly famous. Was very well known for giving very full dramatic performances, which wasn't really done at the time. It was a lot of pantomiming. And so this is what they named this award after. And Joseph Mankiewicz, the writer and director, created that award based on her for this movie. 2 years later, a group of stage actors in Chicago formed the Sarah Siddons Society based on this movie, and have been giving away the Sarah Siddons Award ever since. And it goes to a outstanding actor in a Chicago-based stage play. Originally, it started out just as a female actor, and has now gone through with this. I need to read a few of the names that have won this award before we dive into how gross that kind of is. We have Helen Hayes, Deborah Carr, Geraldine Page, Myrna Loy, Carol Channing, Celeste Holm, aka Karen from this movie, Lauren Bacall, Bette Davis in 1973, Angela Lansbury, Lynn Redgrave, Cloris Leachman, Jessica Tandy, Claudette Colbert, Ann Miller, Rita Moreno, Liza Minnelli, Lily Tomlin, Ellen Burstyn, Bernadette Peters, Julie Andrews, I think for a second time maybe, Faye Dunaway. Then eventually they open it up to both male and female actors. Brian Dennehy, John Mahoney, Kathleen Turner, William Peterson, Baby Newirth, and more recently, but not the most recent, Tracy Letts. What a freaking lineup of actors to win an award that started as a fictitious award that now feels like it's like, when does life and art stop imitating each other?
I am calling this Sarah Sid Inception.
Jess is frumping right now, by the way. She is not enthused by this news.
It's like, no one can see me. But from the moment you started talking about this until this moment where I'm laughing, I have been frumping hard.
What I am hearing is the physical reality of the end of All About Eve, where we have them all in the mirror holding the award and bowing.
Pretty much.
So is All About Eve a prophecy?
It's still happening. It's happening right now.
It's happening right now. The call is coming from inside the house.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, while Jess is continuing to frump her way towards the end of this.
Don't love it. I don't like it.
So I guess the other thing we kind of end off with, I think we know the answer to this, obviously, but being the person that has watched the movie for the first time and now multiple times leading up to this, I take it you enjoyed it.
I did enjoy it, but I also hated that I enjoyed it because it is still got such a modern message for a 75-year-old movie.
Yeah.
So it's the movie I love to hate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is that.
Yeah.
You love when you watch old movies like this and you go, boy, this shouldn't still be as relevant as it is. I think we had this conversation when we watched Do the Right Thing afterwards, where it said, boy, isn't it great that we've come so far in 35 years of racial discrimination.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That was thank you for coming to visit us. And it just serendipitously happened. We were able to record a podcast with you.
I came only for the podcast and the residual fame that will follow.
Excellent.
I am the Eve to Jess's Margot.
That's fair.
Watch out.
So fun sidebar, because I was busy frumping, and I had one more thought.
Okay.
And it's just because Ash has talked about the cyclical nature and the fact that
Saracen Inception.
Saracen still frumping. The last shot of the movie with her holding the award, and it's infinite mirrors, it's infinite Phoebes.
Yeah.
This is, you asked if it's a prophecy, it's going to keep going.
Well, and it makes you think, Margot, maybe without even realizing it, was once an Eve. Birdie, without even realizing it, was probably once an Eve.
Mm-hmm. And then they made up award, and then the award became a real award, and then life and art are the same, and I like it. So anyway, thanks for coming, Ash.
Let's stick to the Razzies.
Next time we'll do a bad movie that we can believe we haven't seen. So we'll change the title of the podcast.
We'll switch it up. Thanks for being our first ever guest.
I'm so pleased.
Podcaster.
Yeah,
I'm so pleased. If you ever do decide to do a podcast where it's like, do you want to just listen to me talk about something I really, really love? Showgirls.
Absolutely.
I will fly out here just for that and to visit for a hot second.
I mean, also that.
There you go. The burgeoning I Can't Believe You podcast network. We'll have Showgirls talk once a week with Ash.
Oh, Ash could have her own podcast.
No, it's like we're going to switch things up, and it's like, on this episode of I Can't Believe You Haven't Seen, it's I Can Believe You Have Seen, and I need to talk to someone about it.
Yeah, I'm not okay. I need to talk to
That's what it should be called. I'm not okay. I need to talk to someone about this.
Yeah, no, this is great.
I think Ash has just found herself her own podcast.
We got a niche,
title.
yeah.
Keep an eye out.
$1 million idea.
Yes, this has been awesome, not just because you're one of our favorite people, but because you always have great ideas. And now I get to go frump some more.
Yeah.
So
I also really appreciate you guys picked. Now, question. This does not have to be on here. I'm just talking. Did you pick All About Eve because you know my familiar, I guess I'm wondering why you picked All About Eve in the sense of, like, it's such an old movie, and like you said, it's the oldest one you guys have done.
I picked All About Eve because you're 40 and I knew you'd be... No, I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm kidding.
I think we came up with a bit of a list that most of them were older, but ones that you and I had watched together at some point.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know you know old movies. I know that was a big thing for, like... Your grandmother was a big old movie fan.
Yep.
I know I've watched a lot of old movies with you. I watched a lot on my own. I've watched a lot with you. I know you know them. So I was actually genuinely, completely shocked that you hadn't seen All About Eve, because this is very much a movie up your alley.
So I think, again, I've seen a lot of Betty Davis performances. I think one of the big reasons I never saw All About Eve was because my grandma hated Betty Davis, and she's who I watched a lot of my old movies with.
Oh, that's
so I've
funny.
seen a crap ton of Natalie Wood.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny that she hated Betty Davis.
Yeah. Huh. Betty Davis was not an endearing person.
No, and that's, I mean, fair, but from an acting standpoint, I'm surprised she hated Betty Davis. But, she did tend to go actor/personality, so that makes a lot of sense.
There you go.
Once again, Ash, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I am less terrified. More pleased, less terrified to be here.
That's good.
That's good. Well, we in a wonderful segue, our next one might make you slightly more terrified, because the next podcast is going to come out just before Halloween, and we're watching a movie that I've seen that Jess hasn't, that is very much in the horror, scary movie area. In the next podcast, I can't believe you haven't seen Get Out.
I have seen that.
I can believe I haven't seen it, but I'm about to. We'll keep you posted. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Have a good one.